Good evening and welcome to the Connecticut Department of Transportation's Public Information Meeting for project number 83277, the replacement of bridge number 00153, Quarry Road over Interstate 95 in Milford. My name is Susan Morneau and I'm a project engineer with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. I would like to welcome everyone who's taken the time to tune in for tonight's presentation. We hope this will be informative and we are able to answer all your questions and concerns so that by the time we are done, you'll have a better understanding of our project. Available to those joining us tonight through Zoom is the option to view captions or subtitles. To turn on this feature, select the Show Captions button at the bottom of your screen. Then select Speaking Language and select the desired language. Before I get into the presentation and introduce the project team, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items and explain tonight's format. Our presentation will last approximately 20 minutes and will include a description of the existing conditions, the purpose and need for this project, and our proposed design. Once the presentation is completed, we will host a live question and answer session. We would like you to know that no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project, and that there is a civil rights flyer available. The civil rights notice to the public is available at portal.ct.gov/OFFICE/TITLE-VI-PAGE. Again, that's portal.ct.gov/DOT/business/Office of Equity/Title 6 page. We would also greatly appreciate it if you could fill out the voluntary post-meeting survey for the Connecticut Department of Transportation. The results of this survey will help us improve these public meetings going forward. You can find the survey at portal.ct.gov/CTDOT-SURVEY. Again, that's portal.ct.gov/CTDOT survey. The links to both the civil rights flyer and the survey are located on the previously mentioned project webpage. Here you will find the Title VI notice to the public in English. It describes the process to file a complaint with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. I will pause for a few moments so you can have a chance to read the slide. This slide contains the same information as the previous, except in Spanish this time, and I will pause for a moment so you can read it. You will have three means of communicating with us during the live Q&A session. The first is by sending an email to the project email address, which is dotproject83-277@ct.gov. Again, that's dotproject83-277@ct.gov. The second is by leaving a voicemail at 860-594-2020. Please note that we will be checking for emails and voicemails periodically during the presentation so that we can address your comments and answer your questions. Please also remember to leave contact information if you leave a voicemail so that we may reach back out to you directly if for some reason we can't get back to you during the live Q&A session. You can ask questions or provide comments through January 29, 2025 via either email or telephone. I will go over the third option, the Zoom chat function, next. This function is only available during tonight's live Q&A session. A recording of tonight's entire presentation, including the Q&A session, will be stored on the project webpage. The webpage can be found at portal.ct.gov DOT-MIL-FORD-83-277. Closed captioning, including non-English translations, will be available at that time. To ask a question or make a comment using the Zoom Q&A feature, click on the Q&A tool at the bottom of the Zoom webinar window. This will bring up the Zoom Q&A chat window. Type your question in the text box at the bottom. Once you have finished typing, you can hit send and the project team will then see your question. On the screen, you will see your question and any other questions that have already been answered. Please note that even though you won't see them yet, the project team may have other questions to respond to and will respond to all questions in the order they are received. I would now like to introduce the project team. From left to the right on the top row with the Connecticut Department of Transportation, we have Bart Sweeney, Division Chief of Bridges. Derek Lassard, Principal Engineer of the Consultant Bridge Design, Consultant Liaison Engineering Program is next, followed by Brianna Rataco, Supervising Engineer in the CLE program. I am on the left on the second row, and I'm a Project Engineer with the CLE program. Last is Kathleen Erickson, who is a Property Agent with the Office of Rights of Way. BL Companies is a Consultant Liaison Engineer on this project and will work with the Connecticut Department of Transportation to provide project oversight throughout the design and construction of the project. Jennifer Usher is the Program Manager for BL. She will be the MC for the Q&A session of tonight's presentation. Bill Murphy is the Liaison Engineer from BL. Bill will follow me and go into more detail about this project. McFarland Johnson is the Design Consultant on this project. Gene McCarthy is the Senior Project Manager for MJ, and David Cull is the Lead Bridge Engineer for McFarland Johnson. You will hear from both Gene and Dave this evening as they discuss the proposed structure. Thank you for bearing with me while I went over the ground rules. Now I will start getting into the project-specific information. On your screen, you will see the project location. Bridge number 00153 carries Quarry Road over Interstate 95, not far from the Milford service plazas. On this aerial photo, you can see the approximate project limits outlined in an orange dashed line. During the course of this presentation, you may hear us use terms that aren't necessarily familiar to you. We thought it would be helpful to introduce you to a few. Looking at the bridge diagram on this slide, the deck is shown in black and is the riding surface of the bridge. The parapets, shown in green, help prevent errant vehicles from going off the bridge. The beams or the girders are the supporting structural elements and are designed to support the weight of the vehicles, the weight of the bridge itself, and any environmental loads such as wind or seismic. They are shown here in blue. The parapets, deck, and beams or girders are what make up the superstructure of the bridge. The abutment and wing walls are the end supports on a bridge. Intermediate supports, if any, are called piers, and these elements are shown here in red. Together, the piers, abutments, and wing walls are known as the substructure of the bridge. The substructure supports the superstructure and also helps to transmit loads from the superstructure down to the bridge foundations. At this time, I would like to hand the presentation over to Bill Murphy of BL Companies, who will give you an overview of the existing structure for bridge number 00153.
Thank you and good evening. The existing bridge at Quarry Road conveys traffic across Interstate 95. It is a two-span multi-girder bridge structure supported on reinforced concrete abutments at the ends and a center pier in the middle. Constructed in 1958, it has a volume of traffic that's been measured as 4,100 vehicles per day, the average daily traffic as measured by the Connecticut DOT's traffic log in year 2021. And as you would expect, the volume beneath the bridge on Interstate 95 is greater, and that has been measured more recently in 2023 as 126,000 vehicles per day. The photograph shown is a western view of the bridge, and you can see the abutments on the ends and the center pier in the middle. The photograph on the left is as if you are standing on the edge of the bridge looking northward. You'll note here that the sidewalk there is an existing sidewalk on the eastern side of the bridge. As well, there are overhead utilities supported by a utility pole, again, on the eastern side of the bridge. The photograph on the right is an eastern view of the bridge, and therefore the traffic in the foreground is moving northward. The purpose of this project is to address the structural deficiencies of the existing bridge structure. The concrete of the bridge has been experiencing spalling and cracking, and in some cases exposing reinforcing steel. The first photo on the left shows you an example of this. You can see cracking and the spalling of concrete. The steel of the bridge has experienced rusting, both surface and pack rust. It's had some cracked welds, and there has been some impact to the bridge, impact damage, most recently in year 2022. The photograph in the middle shows some of the heavy rusting experienced on the bolted connections, and the photograph on the right shows what's known as section loss, or essentially the rusting away of the steel, reducing some of the size of the structural members. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the design firm, and McFarland Johnson, who will take you into what's proposed.
Thanks, Bill. So we went through an alternatives evaluation to look at all sorts of different options for this structure. And looking in an aerial view here, what we're proposing to do is replace the structure pretty much with what you see out there now. We're going to be putting in a new 2-span structure. Span lengths are going to be similar to what's out there now, approximately 83 feet. We're going to be replacing the pier that's in the median of Interstate 95. We are going to be raising the profile of the bridge, which I'll talk about a little bit on the next slide. We're going to do that, we're going to have to do some approach roadway work that's shown in green right here. We're also going to be moving the sidewalk over to the west side of the bridge, and we're going to be tying the sidewalk into the existing sidewalk that's on the south side of the bridge right now. One of the things we did do in alternatives evaluation was to make sure that any roadway reconstruction work that does have to be performed, we're not going to be impacting access to driveways and businesses that are on either side of the bridge. That's one of the goals of the project, and we're trying to minimize the impacts to the greatest extent possible. Here's an elevation view of the bridge. It's going to look pretty similar to what you see when you drive on Interstate 95 right now. The big difference is that what we're going to be doing is we're increasing the vertical clearance on the structure. Right now, we provide about 14 feet of vertical clearance. We're going to be increasing that to a minimum of 16 feet 3 inches. That's going to be, that meets all current design criteria, and it's going to greatly reduce the possibility of there ever being impact damage to this bridge. So it's going to provide for a much safer structure. Section view that's on of the structure for what we're proposing right now. 12-foot travel lanes with 8-foot shoulders. That meets current design criteria. We are providing a 5-foot 6-inch sidewalk on the, like I said, on the west side of the bridge. Safety rail with a safety fence will be on either side of the structure. There are utilities that are carried by this bridge. We are going to be making accommodation for those, and we'll be carrying those utilities on the new structure as well. There will be a nice smooth asphalt riding surface that we're putting on this structure, and that's going to tie into the roadway work that's being performed. I'm going to turn it over now to Gene McCarthy, who's going to talk about some of the highway design and traffic control maintenance that's going to be performed.
Excellent. Thanks, Dave. As Dave said, the new bridge will be placed in the existing bridge location. Therefore, the plan is to close Quarry Road during the reconstruction of the bridge. The traffic will be detoured as such, and it's shown on this graphic that's on this slide that the detour will utilize Woodmont Road and Rose's Mill Road, and we will place detour signs to make sure that motorists know where they need to go to avoid Quarry Road. As shown here, from the end of the bridge to the other end of the bridge, that detour is about 2.3 miles. However, for most motorists, when they approach Quarry Road, they will be directed with detour signage from the ends of Quarry Road, and that detour is about 1.5 miles. Finally, as Dave said earlier about the driveways, we will maintain access to all residential and commercial driveways during the duration of the construction. There will also be construction that will be very visible from I-95. As stated, when the abutments are reconstructed, we will have to secure work zones to allow for the demolition and the construction of the new abutments. During all peak periods of traffic, all 3 lanes in each direction of I-95 will be maintained, and the construction will occur on the outside. During stage 2, the traffic will still be maintained 3 lanes in each direction, but the work zone will be in the median of I-95 as shown here, and the contractor will demolish the existing pier and construct the new pier in this median of I-95. Couple of other elements of the project. As stated, there are some utilities in the area. The water main will be replaced and carried on the bridge. There are some systems for the I-95, which are the intelligent transportation systems. Some of those conduits are carried on the bridge and around the structure. Those will all be replaced and maintained during the project. As Bill had stated, there are some aerial utilities, and we will do our best to minimize the impacts to those, but they will be maintained by the project. Currently, we are not anticipating the need for environmental permits. We will continue to monitor that as we progress the design. And similarly with the right-of-way, we are still, as we move forward with the design, we will keep an eye on the impacts. At this point, we really do not anticipate impacting private parcels, but we'll learn more about that as we progress the design. And I will now turn it over back to Susan Morneau.
Thank you, Jean. This slide shows our estimated project costs and schedule. Please note that these are preliminary and subject to change. We are currently estimating a construction cost of approximately $14.2 million, which will be paid for with 80% federal and 20% state funds. No funding is anticipated from Milford at this time. Construction is anticipated to begin in 2029 and be complete in 2030. And please note, the Department of Transportation is looking for ways to expedite this project, and we may be able to pull the project schedule in. This concludes the formal presentation portion of tonight's presentation. And at this point, I will turn things over to Jennifer Usher of BL Companies, who will be the MC for the question and answer portion of tonight's presentation.
Thank you, Susan. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Usher. I am with BL Companies, and as Susan mentioned, I will serve as your MC for tonight's Q&A session. Would like to just take a moment to thank everyone for attending tonight's presentation. Really, the purpose of this meeting is to engage the public, provide you all with an opportunity to ask questions, perhaps relay some of the concerns you may have. So with that being said, there's several options for you to submit those questions and comments that you may have that you see up on your screen. The first is by email, and you can use dot project83-277 at ct.gov. The second is by leaving a voicemail by using the phone number 860-594-2020. And the third is using the Zoom chat function that Susan went over earlier. And just as a reminder, if you're looking for some more information, you can find that on our project webpage listed there. So with that, I think we will start our session. And it looks like we've already got our first question coming in. So this question is asking, who is the main contractor? And I'm going to hand that over to Brianna Rataco with Connecticut DOT.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thank you everyone for coming tonight. So this project is in the preliminary design phase, so very early in design, and we're anticipating design being complete towards the end of 2028, I believe. So at that point, we would then advertise the project for contractors to bid on. So the contractor for construction has not been selected at this time, and we still have a couple of years to go for that.
Thank you, Brianna. Appreciate that response. And we'll just give everyone kind of some time to perhaps add any more questions that they may have in. And as we are waiting for that, I'll just remind everyone that, of course, Connecticut DOT does one of these public information meetings for all their projects, mostly just to get the information out to the public. In doing so, we're always looking for a little bit of feedback from the public at what we may be able to do better, provide more information on what you guys are looking for. So if you do have a few moments following this and you can take some time to take the voluntary survey, we would greatly appreciate it. We do use that feedback to kind of modify how we're doing these public info meetings and the information that we're getting out to you. So, and just again, as a reminder, a couple different ways to reach us. You can use the email at dot project83-277 at ct.gov, or you can leave a voicemail at 860-594-2020. Would just ask that you include the project number. Again, that's 83-277 in your message. If we have any other questions or comments coming in, it doesn't look like we have a huge crowd tonight, so maybe we did a pretty good job at answering any questions you may have had with the presentation. Oh, perfect. We have one other question that's just come in here. And great question. They're asking, is there any rebuilding of the storm drains or storm systems? And Jean McCarthy with McFarland Johnson is going to take that question.
So yes, thank you. That's a very good question. So as part of this project, we will evaluate all of the impacts to the existing drainage system. We always try to minimize the impacts and try to make sure that there's no additional storm drainage that would be added. So that will definitely be one of the main design tasks that we will engage as we move forward with the design.
Thank you, Jean. Hopefully that answered that person's questions. Of course, if it didn't, please just provide us with a little bit more detail and we'll certainly add to that answer. So one of the things I'll just make mention while we're waiting for some additional questions and or comments is that this project is using what's called or what's known as ABC construction, which stands for accelerated bridge construction. Those techniques can involve a bunch of different things, including like precast units that can be delivered to the site, put in place quickly. But first and foremost, they mostly do involve some sort of detour for the most part, which you did see that was presented here tonight. So although we have to detour traffic over Quarry Road, it will allow this project to basically be constructed very quickly. And so hopefully that will really reduce the overall impact to traffic, especially on Quarry Road. All right. Let's see. It looks like we have someone who definitely knows our engineering and design. So this person is asking what type of road paint will be used on the deck. I'm not sure we know that yet or not, but let's see. Oh, Jean, I will hand that back to you with McFarland Johnson.
I'll try to answer it. I'm assuming you mean like striping paint. Obviously, this is more of a local road, so we'll typically use whatever is the local municipality's preference. There's a lot of different types that we can use. So, but as Jennifer said, that has not been determined as of at this point.
I'll just add a little bit to what Jean said. So we're really just in the preliminary stages of design. In fact, we haven't even reached 30% design stage. This is really important for us to do right at the beginning of a project, to hear from the public. That gives us much more of an opportunity to, negotiate the design and kind of make any changes that may be applicable after hearing from the public. So this is very early on. And I think even Sue had made mention that this isn't going to construction for several years, but we are trying to see if we can potentially expedite that. I'm sure everyone would like to see this done sooner than later. So that's something else we're looking into to see what we can do. Let's see if we have any other questions coming in. All right. So again, I'll just remind everyone a couple different ways to reach out to us. Again, if you can see that screen, because we do have a call-in only option for everyone. So for those of you that can't see the screen, that's why I'm reading out the different ways to reach us. But again, the first is by email at dotproject83-277@ct.gov. The second is through voicemail, reaching out to us at 860-594-2020. Just please mention project number 83-277 in your message. That will ensure it gets over to the project team and we will respond. And we have another question that just came in. Great question. Person's asking, will replacement of the water main disrupt service? And I'm going to hand that over to Dave Cole with McFarland Johnson.
No, we work with the utility companies throughout the design to maintain service. That's one of the critical components that we start early in the process, is to get coordination with all the affected utilities to make sure that we can maintain service and that there'll be no disruption to any sort of water or any other type of utility service.
Thank you. And I'll add to Dave's response there. We have actually already been working with the water company. Fortunately, that water system actually has a couple of different supply points. So that makes it essentially that it allows us to, it's called backfeed that main. So we can take the main portion that's over the bridge out of service for a short period of time. It won't disrupt any of the water services to the existing customers, replace the bridge, put the water main back, over the bridge, and then reconnect it. And then you basically have kind of that backfeeding can be eliminated. And then everyone will maintain their service and there'll be no disruption there. Can't always do this on the projects, but in this case, we're going to be able to do that. So it's a kind of an ideal situation. One thing I do want to make mention of that one of my associates just reminded me is that the Zoom Q&A is only open this evening for you to use. However, the email and phone will be open for 2 weeks following today or tonight's meeting. So should you think of a question or a comment over the next 2 weeks about the project, you can submit that using the phone number up there as well as the email, and the project team will respond back to you. So please, by all means, do that. Let's see, another question just came in. This person's asking, what type of asphalt or concrete is expected to be used on the project? Let's see, who's the best person to take that? I'm gonna give that over to Gene McCarthy with McFarland Johnson.
Yeah, I think this might be Dave and I both. So, yeah, we use asphalt for, all the road surface, and it's usually on the bridge as well. When you say what type, I mean, there's a couple different types of asphalt that we use. It's more the depth is the bigger question, but it's all based on the loading. So there's a lot of set standards that we use to establish what type and how deep or how much thickness of asphalt. But I'll let Dave answer the concrete question.
Yeah, with regard to the concrete, there'll be a lot of concrete on the structure, so we'll have various different types. All the concrete that we're going to use is Connecticut DOT standards, and there's different types. The bridge deck, we use a really strong, good concrete with some admixtures to make sure we have a long, useful life. Same for the piers and the abutments next to the adjacent roadway. A little bit different types of materials, but it's all Connecticut standard concrete that's going to be used. So hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and it's important to note that I think Dave said it in his presentation, even on the bridge, it's a concrete deck, but there is asphalt surface. So the entire surface of the road will be asphalt.
Yeah.
Thank you, both of you. Appreciate that. All right. Again, just give a little bit more time here for anyone's questions or comments. I will make one more, well, probably not one more, I'll probably do it a second time, but also just want to make a plug again for the survey. I did put that in the webinar chat. You'll see a link to it there. So again, if you just have a few minutes, it's a really short survey, but again, the feedback really is important and we do appreciate it. Let's see, just see if we have any more questions. Surprised we actually didn't get a few more people out here tonight, but hopefully this will, hopefully that means that this isn't going to have any significant impacts to those of you residents that are around that area. The really, the good news, and I think Bill mentioned this during the presentation, is that we are not anticipating the need for any environmental permits, just for the fact that we're probably roadway over roadway. So we did, take a look to see if there was any inland wetlands that would be impacted by the site, and there wasn't. So that makes this project a little bit more straightforward for us. And as Dave was mentioning earlier, we will continue to do pretty good amount of utility coordination because we do have a water main that's being supported by the bridge, as well as some aerial utilities that go across the bridge. So we've already been having some initial conversations with them about, the best way to kind of relocate and maintain service throughout construction, again, to minimize any impact that is to the residents in that area. Again, let me just give it a few more minutes here. I want to make sure everyone gets a good opportunity to ask any questions that they have. Again, a couple of ways to reach us. Email DOT project 83-277@ct.gov. By phone 860-594-2020. Always have to add the reminder to please include the project number, which is 83-277 in your voicemail. Again, both of those options will be open for another 2 weeks until January 29th. And you can, again, just leave a message or send us an email. The project team will respond. If you're looking for some more information, you can always visit our webpage, which you should see up on the screen. I also included the link in the webinar chat. Should you have any questions about Title VI, that's the first link that I put in the webinar chat at the top that Sue had read off earlier. And the Zoom Q&A, that will only be open tonight for you to use while this session is going on. So everything else will be open for another 2 weeks. And I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. See if we want to just give it another minute, maybe. Oh, it looks like we actually have a question that came in through voicemail. Oh, it looks like they said they had a question, but they didn't actually say what the question was. If that's someone listening right now and you're unable to use the Q&A Zoom chat, if you wouldn't mind, we're going to leave this open for just a little bit longer. If you can call and leave another voicemail, that just lets us know what the question you have is. We can answer that here and now tonight. If for some reason you're unable to do that, by all means, still please leave us that question when you have the availability or the time. And like I said, the project team will get back to you directly. You'll just need to leave us your contact information. Alternatively, you can always send us an email if that's easier. So try to give you a couple different options out there and some flexibility in how to reach the project team. See if anyone's coming in with that voicemail, or if anyone that is on our Zoom call tonight has any other questions. All right, where we give that just a few more minutes. I'll just let you know, so we have the project team here tonight. We have a couple of representatives of Connecticut DOT who are administering and heading up this project, as well as a member of the rights of way unit. Additionally, Dave Cull and Jean McCarthy are with McFarland Johnson, and they are the bridge, or I should say the project designers that will be not only designing the bridge replacement, but also the maintenance and protection of traffic that will need to take place while the project is in construction, and along with the associated work. Bill Murphy and myself were with BL Companies. We're really responsible for administering the project on Connecticut DOT's behalf. That includes leading some of the utility coordination, as well as doing any of the environmental permits, had those been applicable or needed for the project. In addition to that, we also are responsible for the hydraulic modeling for bridges that convey water. Obviously, this one didn't, so this one's a little bit easier for us in that sense. Oh, and it looks like the person with the voicemail did get back to us, and they are saying, during construction, will there be any noise issues? During demolition, will there be any blasting? And this may be a different person that left this voicemail, but if I can, let's see, is there someone that would be able to respond to that question? And I think I'm going to hand that over to Dave. Okay, thank you. Dave with McFarland Johnson.
Yes. So this is a construction site. There is probably going to be noise. As to whether there's going to be blasting, we actually haven't gotten to that point yet. We're just in the preliminary design. One of our goals is to minimize all the amount of rock and any sort of excavation to the greatest extent possible. Noise is a big consideration in like what we do. We do have contract requirements in there for that during construction. That certain sound levels need to be maintained in work hours, and that's all going to be figured out as we go through the final design process. So the blasting and things that there will be noise for will be interspersed. There's lots of different activities that will be going on out here, but we are going to do the greatest extent possible to minimize those activities and the level of noise. We do have precautions in place that will limit that effect.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that and answering that person's question there. Good question from probably an adjacent resident or someone nearby. And so again, just checking to see if we have any more questions coming in either through voicemail, Q&A chat, or through our email. And doesn't look like I see anything coming in there. Give it just a minute or so. Right. Again, if you have a few minutes, we would really appreciate you just taking that voluntary post-meeting survey. The link is in that webinar chat. It's the second link that I sent over. So looks like we might have something coming in here. So let me give them a second to just get that in. Oh, it looks like this is kind of similar, and they're just asking if during demolition, will there be any blasting? And I think Dave Cole had previously responded to that. And really the answer is kind of to be determined, but understanding that there is nearby residents. So we'd want to be cognizant of that and kind of minimize any of the blasting if it was truly needed being done. I don't know, Dave, if you want to add anything to what I just said.
Yeah, we're going to try and limit, as we get into the design, we're going to try and limit the need for any sort of blasting to the greatest extent possible. It's just added time and risk for the project. So part of our task as we get into the design is to minimize the size of the abutment and the location to make things as amenable to the public and as fast as possible. If we get to the point where we realize that blasting does need to occur and there's no other option and that is the best option, there's a very detailed procedure in place. There'll be plain notifications. It would be probably a once or twice off a very short duration. Lots of notification will be given in advance, but the likelihood of that is still to be determined, but we're going to do the greatest extent possible to minimize or remove any need for that.
Thank you, Dave. All right, we'll see if we have anything else coming in here. And I'm just checking our Zoom Q&A. I don't see any other questions coming in from there, but we'll also be checking our email and voicemail, make sure we've got everything covered. And again, I'll just make a mention, we are hoping to expedite this project, perhaps even put it into construction a year earlier. That's going to really depend on several factors, but we are working and doing our best to get this done as quickly as possible. Obviously, we'll do whatever we can to minimize the construction duration. We certainly don't want to see people impacted by the detour longer than they need to be. And then there will be, as McFarland Johnson mentioned in their presentation, there will be some impact to I-95 below the bridge. We anticipate that happening really in the off-peak hours when there's not too many travelers or vehicles on the highway. So we'll work with that to see when we can get that done. All right, and it doesn't look like we have any new emails or voicemails, and I don't see anything in the Q&A. So I think that's going to wrap up tonight's meeting and presentation. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We really appreciate your time as well as your questions, your comments. Hopefully we've been able to answer any of the questions that you may have had during tonight's session. However, I will mention if you do have additional comments or questions, again, that comment period will be open until January 29th. Until that time, you can use the project email or the voicemail, just not the Zoom Q&A, because I'll end tonight, to send us those questions or comments. And my last pitch, if you have a few more minutes and you can spare, really would appreciate you filling out that voluntary survey. That's at portal.ct.gov/CT-DOT survey. And it's also, like I mentioned, linked in this chat there. And with that, yep, we will close tonight's presentation. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Take care.